So I've been conducting a instant messaging thread here that is important, that we need to go over, and that is when people are first exploring real love in their lives, there's often a time when they're pulling back from imitation love. When they understand what they're getting and protecting behaviors are, they understand what the imitation love is that they use, they realize they shouldn't be doing those things, and so they attempt to pull back from them. But they don't have enough real love in their lives yet to make up for the difference, which means that for a time it feels like they have nothing at all. That can be pretty painful. And so it's very important that we absolutely immerse ourselves in as many sources of real love as possible. And that means calling people who are capable of loving us every single day. It's something we have to do, in fact, in some people's cases, 2 or 3 times a day. I usually suggest to people when they say, would you be willing to work with me on real love? And I often tell people this: I'm either willing to work with you a lot, that is, I'm willing to talk with you every day or more than once a day, or I'm not willing to work with you at all. Because helping somebody feel loved once every couple of weeks is kind of like somebody who wants to learn to play the piano, practicing the piano once a month. You just as well save yourself the energy, because it's like not practicing at all. In order to change the pattern, the inertia, the direction of a lifetime, it requires some real concerted effort in the beginning. And although it appears to be more work, it's really not more work. It's just different work. Work is being angry, controlling, acting like a victim, feeling in pain. That's real work. That's utterly exhausting. So changing our lives actually requires less work, but it's different. And so it feels odd, it feels strange, it feels often even disorienting. And so many of us quit. So I really strongly suggest to the writer that I've been talking to this about, that you find a number of people that you can contact every single day. You made a comment here that you'll call people and they don't call you back. Then you need to call more people. You need to have a long list of people that you can talk to. Reliable people, dependable people. You need to talk to your coach and say, look, I need more than this. I need some people perhaps that you talk to. Ask your coach to talk to these people and prepare them for you to call, so that you're not just some random call. For example, today I got 2 or 3 phone calls from somebody whose name I didn't recognize at all. And, you know, we get sales phone calls from people and, you know, the usual stuff. And I didn't recognize this guy's name. Well, I didn't call him back. Well, it turns out that he is the husband of a lady who once said to me, I'd like to have my husband call you, and would you be willing to speak to him? And I said, well, sure. But her husband's last name is different than hers. I didn't know who he was. So, you know, sometimes you need to have these people introduced to you so they realize how important it is that they do call you back. We need to do whatever it takes. And saying, well, somebody didn't call me back, isn't nearly enough. If your life were at risk, if you had cancer and this person had the vial of chemotherapy that was going to save your life, would you call them more than once? Yeah, you would. You'd do whatever it took to get a hold of that treatment. And frankly, our lives are at risk. You know, we go to enormous lengths to save our lives. And I often ask, for what? Because in many cases, all we're doing is prolonging miserable lives. I'm not sure we're doing people a favor. There are way worse things than dying. It's much worse to stay alive and be unhappy. So I suggest that you go to greater lengths. You talk to your coach, you get names. Call me. email me at greg@reallove.com, and I'll give you my phone number. Do whatever it takes to connect to people. It really is life or death. And in the end, if we're unhappy and we've lost our marriages and our children are unhappy, is it going to count that we say, well, somebody didn't call us back? We have to do more. So I'm willing to help you, and so is your coach. But we have to be willing to do whatever it takes to get what we need. Here's a man who says, although I find myself being a lot less angry since applying, real love, I do find that in the mornings upon wakening, I often feel angry for no apparent reason. It's not like I had an interaction that was challenging, so why upon waking up does anger tend to show up? When we first wake up, our control is less strong. Our inner feelings, our fears, our anger, our anxiety is more on the surface. We're less repressed. And so, you're still dealing with the pain of a lifetime of not feeling loved. The pain of a lifetime of people letting you down, not loving you, betraying you, disappointing you. So, we're not going to let go of a lifetime of disappointment just poof, overnight. The fact that you would still have some anger is entirely normal. And that it would be stronger in the morning, again, entirely normal. Or in some people's cases, it's stronger late at night. Or it's stronger when they drink. For example, people wondered why a recent celebrated event was when Mel Gibson was pulled over for drunk driving, and he was cursing at Jews and whoever. And they're wondering, how can somebody do such a terrible thing? Easy. I mean, when we're drinking, some of our inhibitions leave, and we end up saying things that we either think deep inside that we would normally control, or sometimes that we have thought in the past. Having been a physician for 20 years, I've spent a lot of time around people with Alzheimer's, and I've seen some people. One case comes to mind of a just delightful, caring, loving, kind Baptist minister who otherwise was just a really cultured, refined gentleman. And the more that Alzheimer's took away his inhibitions, he cursed and swore like a sailor and was short with people. And is that a reflection of who he really is? No, actually, it takes away from him what he's learned. It takes away from him what he's learned about loving and leaves those deep old wounds and the natural reactions. So pretty natural you'd feel that way in the morning. I wouldn't make a big deal of it. Just keep taking the next step, which is getting loved. Here's a man who says, I've had several specific occurrences with women from my past. One who claimed that she was pregnant when she wasn't, just to get me to not leave the relationship, and another who sued me. The lawsuit, essence, was basically a woman who was angry at me for breaking the relationship off with her while we shared office space and having been in the same profession. I find that I don't trust women, and I'm having a hard time staying in a committed relationship because of it. So, if you learn to see what's been going on, and as you change, all this changes. So, remember, these women were only responding to their emptiness and fear. This isn't about you. These are women who were drowning long before they met you. This is important. They were drowning decades before they met you. Then what happened was, you came into view and you swam close to them and provided them a brief moment of flotation. Perhaps they clung to you for a brief period of time. You made them feel better for a short period of time where they didn't feel like they were drowning. And so they assumed that you were going to save them for the rest of their lives. Then it became apparent that you were drowning too, and that you needed as much help as they did. Whoa, what a huge disappointment. And so rather than admit to themselves that they'd always been drowning and that their condition was their responsibility to take care of, all they could see is that once you held their head above water, and now you don't. So who do you think they're going to blame? You. And they're going to go after you with all they've got. It had nothing to do with you. It was all about them. Now, you're not trusting women in the future? Silly. Because as you change who you are, as you become more unconditionally loving, you won't attract that kind of woman into your life. Do you see that? That the kind of woman who is desperately empty and afraid and looking for somebody to save her, you won't find her attractive. She won't find you attractive. And you won't fall for that kind of interchange of imitation love anymore. You see, you participated in that business. You came into her life and she said, oh, if you'll save me, I'll give you whatever. Praise, power, sex, whatever it was. And without realizing it, you got out the contract and you said, sign me up, sweetie. And you signed the agreement. You said, I'll give you this if you give me that. Nobody realizes they're doing it. But the two of you entered into a trade of imitation love. As you change the currency, as you change it to real love, you won't fall into this trap. So it's not a matter of trusting women. It's a matter of completely getting off the field of death. Completely. You get off the field of death. You start dealing with in real love. And then what you do is, it's not a matter of trusting women now. You simply tell them the truth about yourself and you observe what they do. There's no trust in this. It's observation. When you're early in a relationship, it's all about gathering information. See how that puts no pressure on anybody. If I'm early in a dating relationship, let's say you and I are dating, which would be a little odd, but you and I are dating, then I would tell you the truth about myself. And if you respond with, what? Then I would note that probably you're not interested in truth telling. Then if I keep telling the truth about myself and you persist in blaming, attacking, acting like a victim, making demands of me, it's not about my choosing whether I'm going to trust you. I'm simply observing you and going, wow, this person has no interest in telling the truth. This person has no interest in unconditional loving. This person is interested in emptiness and fear and trading imitation love. Do I want to continue a possible exclusive relationship with this person? No. Duh. You see how obvious it gets? So that makes establishing and maintaining relationships much easier in the future. The past is gone. You have new tools now, so you don't have to worry about repeating the past. Everything changes as you gain in knowledge, perception, and in your ability to love. And if you have more questions about that, let me know. Here's a mother who says, we're getting somewhere with the angry victim queen, who is her daughter. Got any suggestions about what to do with the whiny, moaning, don't want to do it kind of victim queen? So if you can give me a specific example, we'll do much better. So if you can give me an example of the exact event where this child is whining, moaning, and says, I don't want to do it. It's just a lot easier to talk about a specific event than it is in generality. So I'll wait to hear from you. In the meantime, those of you that want to continue a past question that you asked or start a new one, glad to do that. In the meantime, this business of trust is important. We make a big deal of it. In fact, in marriage books, it'll often say it's all about trust. Well, I prefer to say that it is important that we have faith that our partners are doing the best they can to learn and grow. True. But I don't ever have to trust my partner that early in a relationship, I don't have to trust whether my partner's loving. I just observe whether she is or not. It's not hard to tell. But if I'm blinded to real love by my own immersion in imitation love and getting in protecting behaviors, I'm so blind and stupid, I wouldn't know what my partner was doing anyway. So the issue of trust becomes silly. I'm so blind I could be fooled by anybody. So it turns out it's really always an issue about us. It's not an issue about our partners. They fool us only because we are so foolable. Here's a man who says, I've been telling the truth about myself to the past 2 women I have dated and have abstained from sex, which is astonishing. Way to go. I have found that while they found my approach novel and refreshing, they took my not being sexually provocative as a form of disinterest in them. They have both distanced themselves from me out of anger and frustration. Again, here's a great illustration of what I mean by observing what your partner does. So what you did was you just saved yourself untold misery. You should be celebrating. You should be jumping up and down with joy. Because what if you'd given in with these women? Look what they're telling you. You're telling them, I would like to offer you an opportunity to be in a relationship that's based on real love and the truth. That's what you're saying. And these women are saying, well, but I only know how to be in a relationship where I can manipulate the man I'm with by having sex with him. That's the only thing I know how to do. I have many times talked to women when I've talked about abstaining with sex, for example, and the women have said to me, well, but if I don't have sex with a man, how do I get him to like me? Do you see how critical that question is? What she's saying is, I don't even know how to have a relationship. I don't know what a relationship is. I only know how to be a sexual object. Now, the irony is, she also says she doesn't like to be treated as a sexual object. There's a kind of an insanity there, huh? I don't like to be treated as a sexual object, but that's the only thing I know how to be. So she's telling you she only knows how to trade imitation love. She offers sex, she manipulates you with sex to get what she wants. Now, so you enter into a relationship with her and you move in together, or you get married, or you get engaged, whatever. Some kind of serious commitment. Then the effect of sex as a form of imitation love begins to wear off, which it always will. Now what are you going to have? Now, because the effect of the imitation love in the form of sex that you're getting from her is waning, you're going to feel less satisfied with her. She will feel that. She will. You will then be less willing to do things for her, and she's going to start to be angry and disappointed, and so will you. And both of you will be absolutely baffled why this is happening. Then this will go on. Well, how come we're not closer? Well, maybe we could do more. Maybe we should get a book about communication. Maybe we should get a book about how to have better sex together. Maybe we should go to counseling together. And you'll play around like that for, on average, 1.5 to 2 years. So at the end of 2 years, you'll realize, oh man, this stinks. This isn't going to make it. You'll break up, and then you'll start it all over again. So with one of those women, you just wasted 2 years. As opposed to what you just told me, which is in a matter of what it sounds like here, a couple of weeks or few weeks, you managed to figure it out in a few weeks as opposed to 2 years. I'd say that's making you pretty brilliant. Do you see that? It's information. You offered them real love. They said, no, I don't know how to do that. Now, they don't have to know how to do it. They just need to have an interest in doing it. And they said, no, I'd rather move on to some guys who really get this whole trading imitation love thing. Go ahead, let them go. Be glad they're going, because they're going to do this little up and down, miserable imitation love cycle with somebody else. Wouldn't you rather they did? So hang on. Does this mean it might take you a little longer to find an unconditionally loving partner? Maybe. But isn't it enormously more efficient than going through one miserable breakup after another, one miserable relationship after another? Oh, honey, in the long run, this is way more efficient and certainly infinitely happier. So what you're doing is brilliant. You're finding out who can love you. These women running from you is heaven. Be tickled for it. Celebrate. Bake a birthday cake. Blow out the candles. Here's the mother. I was asking about what does the victim queen daughter do. She said, I asked her to do something like take her plate from the dining table into the kitchen, and she doesn't want to do it. She goes into upset. She doesn't feel like it. Lots of whining, moaning, and something that could have been really simple turns into a mini war. Now, where you screw up is you participate in the war. You get upset with her, or you beg her, or you apologize. You respond to this garbage. Let me make a suggestion. Now, it depends on the age of the child, but most children understand this. You say, so why don't you go with me? I want you to picture doing this with me. You and I tomorrow, we're going to go to Walmart. And we're going to go to Walmart, and you can pick out anything you want on the shelves. Candy, toys, gum, whatever you want. Do you picture that? And if you do this real slow, and it's not related to the event that they're upset about, picture them, do this as a mental exercise. They can do this with you. They can do fairy tales. So we're going to go to Walmart. We're going to pick out anything you want, and we're going to put it in the basket. Fun, huh? Anything you want. Then we go to the checkout. And when we get to the checkout counter, you're going to decide you don't want to pay for these things. You're going to decide that all the prices are unfair. And you're going to lie down on the floor at the checkout counter and have a fit and scream and cry and say, what is it here? That you don't feel like it. And you're going to whine and moan and do all the stuff with the checkout lady that you do with me. Now, will the lady at the checkout counter at Walmart still give you all of your candy, your toys, your whatever in your basket? No, because there's a price for every choice you make. There just is. And there's a price for every choice we make in all of our lives, not just here in this household. You think I'm picking on you. No, this household is a continuation of life. There's a price I have to pay. If I decide I want to go over the speed limit, then I don't get to choose whether or not I get a ticket. If they pull me over, I don't get to whine and cry and go, oh, it's not fair. They just give me a ticket. If I don't show up at work, they fire me or they don't pay me. We get to do anything we want to do, but there's a price attached to everything. And in life, it's really not negotiable. We don't get to choose the consequence. And that's going to be true here at home from now on. And frankly, I've been an idiot. Kids love to hear this. I've been a fool because up till now, I've been allowing you to make the choice and I've paid the price. What an idiot. So from now on, you can choose to do anything you want. If you don't want to pick up your plate and take it to the sink, you don't have to. I'll never bother you about it again. But it's your job. And so if you choose not to do your job, there will be a price attached to it. And we'll discuss ahead of time if you'd like the price, but I can't always come up with a price ahead of time for everything you do, so sometimes I'll have to come up with a price on my own. So if you choose not to do your job, then we'll come up with other jobs that you'll have to do. For example, you might have to do your brother's chores for a week. You might have to do the laundry for the whole family for 2 days. You might have to clean up the garage. You might have to scoop the dog's poop out of the entry, whatever, something. And the consequence you give the child has to be much worse than simply doing the job, so that they'll see that doing the job is easier. The price of doing the job the first time is less than the price of choosing not to do it. And you don't get excited. You let the consequences teach. See, consequences don't get angry. How's the child going to fuss at the consequences? Consequences don't have personalities. Consequences simply teach. And so when the child says, "Oh, I'm not going to take my dish to the sink," and you say, "That's okay." Then what we'll have you do instead is wash all of the dishes for everyone. Well, I refuse to do that too. Not a problem. Then you progressively do what I call ramp up the consequences. If you choose not to do that consequence, we'll add yet another one. So then we can add another one, which would be that you'll do without your television, computer, and pretty much everything that you enjoy for the next 2 days. Because if you're too busy to work, then you're too busy to play. And before long, and what you say is, it would be a lot easier for you to take your dish to the sink. It'd be cheaper. But it's up to you. I don't care if you want to do it the hard way, which would be, 10 to 20 times harder than just taking your dish. I don't care. I'd be glad to have you do my dishes. Not a problem. But you don't get irritated. And then the child catches on, I guess I'd rather do it the easy way, wouldn't I? They really do catch on, but you can't be the slightest bit annoyed. And you let the consequences teach them. Another question. If a person you're dating has an alcohol problem that they minimize, should you stay with them because that is what the unconditionally loving thing to do is? No, staying with somebody who has an alcohol problem is not necessarily the unconditionally loving thing to do. You got to remember that unconditionally loving means caring about somebody else's happiness. It doesn't mean devoting the time and attention that it would take to every person you meet to change their life. If that were the case, honey, you couldn't move 10 feet down the street. Every person you ran into, you'd have to solve their life's problems, wouldn't you? So, no, you've got to balance that against everything else that's required of you in your life. If you stopped to take care of her alcohol problem, how would that affect your ability to feel unconditionally loved yourself and to devote the rest of your time to unconditionally love other people? It may completely stop and even cripple you. So you can care about her and not stop and solve her alcohol problem, which you may not be equipped to handle anyway. You're not already married to her. If you were, it'd be different, but you're not. You're looking for a partner, somebody who can enter into an equal yoke with you and move toward being more truthful and loving for a lifetime. Since the requirements for unconditionally loving somebody are none. I don't require anything of somebody to love them. But my requirements for choosing somebody as a partner are way higher, or you'd just be stupid. So, no, if you run into somebody who is hiding an alcohol problem, why in the world would you want to start off an exclusive relationship with a problem that could cripple you right from the beginning? Not at all. hand her the number for the local AA chapter and say, hey, I love you, I care about you, and I'm looking for a partner, not a project. So it's not unloving to move on, because it's just way too much for you to handle for somebody that you're just dating. Hello. Whoa. You're not her counselor, and you're not a drug rehab clinic. Here's a man who says, am I right in thinking that the feelings of sorrow over the divorce I experience is perhaps not from missing her, but from not being able to cover the emptiness through conditional love with her that I always felt before we broke up? Brilliant. As I talk to people who are going through, or who recently went through a divorce, and they say, but I really miss her. And I say, I find that very unlikely. Describe to me what you miss about her. And remember, the whole reason they got divorced in the first place, in fact, probably the reason you got divorced in the first place, was that your relationship was based on imitation love. It degenerated into the exchange of getting and protecting behaviors. And you're telling me you miss that? No, when we break up with somebody, what we grieve over is the intense feelings of falling in love, the exchange of imitation love that we felt early in the relationship. That's one thing we miss. But the big thing we miss, the big thing we grieve over is this: the hope that we had that this was going to be the relationship that was going to make us happy. It's giving up a dream. Losing a dream is a big loss. In many cases, like an amputation. It's huge. We don't miss that person. We miss what we hoped we could have with them. Same thing often with the loss of a parent. I've talked to people who said, I really miss my mom or my dad. And I say, what do you miss about them? Turns out they were never unconditionally loved by that parent. Never. What they really miss is the hope that someday they would work out their relationship and it might become loving. So it's our hopes that are dashed, not really what you got from her. If you were to go back into a relationship with her now, it'd be the same old stuff. You'd end up in the same old divorce, which is why it's critical that you find, especially the men, and maybe some women, that you can now tell the truth to every day and feel unconditionally loved by. Because only as you fill up with that will the pain of the absence of the imitation love go away. Boy, when we first lose those old, dependable sources of imitation love, the pain is very real. Because the pleasure we experienced from imitation love was real. It's just that it's fleeting and it's superficial. Here's the mother again who says, my little victim queen gave me cause to wonder who's the teacher in this relationship yesterday. She wanted me to put her hair up for her, which I did, and then she decided she didn't like it, so she pulled it out. I apparently showed my frustration as she then told me that Santa wasn't going to bring me anything this year because of the way I was behaving. And if I continued to behave like that, she would continue to behave like this. A few minutes later, we were getting into the car to go to school, and she told me that I really should go and make a phone call. More and more I hear from parents whose children say to them, you really need to go to one of those real love meetings or make a phone call. I mean, who teaches these kids to behave like victims? We do. Who puts them in a position of being empty and afraid where they would respond with getting and protecting behaviors? Duh, it's us. So we don't need to feel guilty about it. We just need to consistently identify it and then do the best that we can as we interact with our kids to never treat them with getting and protecting behaviors. Never act like victims. Never get angry at them. Never be disappointed. Now, what if you are angry? Oh, I'm not saying pretend you're not. But if you're angry, go express that to an adult who can love you. There's no sense expressing anger at a child. Why? Because The child's incapable of handling it. The child will hear only, "I don't love you." The child is absolutely incapable of unconditionally loving you as you're angry. So there's absolutely no yield in getting angry at the child. Everyone loses. You lose, child loses, everybody's doomed. So you need to go talk to an adult. That is critical. In fact, it's one of the 9 principles of parenting. When you get irritated, you will go talk to another adult, not to your kid. Here's somebody who says, what's the basis of a fetish? What exactly is it? Why do people choose particular ones to fixate on? What are the long-term consequences of having one? You know, a fetish is just is like a specialized form of imitation love. That's all. Like, let's say somebody has a foot fetish. Somebody who gets a particular sense of physical, usually sexual gratification from focusing on feet or shoes, or, I mean, there's any number of odd things to have fetishes about. And all these people have discovered is that in a fetish, there is an unusual combination of gratification that comes from praise, pleasure, power, safety. In many cases, it's an unusual amount of safety. They get in less trouble with feet than they do with other body parts, for example. There can be any number of reasons. But as we grow up, we develop, for example, a certain taste for certain foods. Japanese kids grow up having a taste for certain kinds of dried seaweed, for example. If you were to serve at an American high school lunch what kids routinely eat at a Japanese high school lunch, probably none of it would be eaten. My son Ben would be sick forever. They've acquired different tastes through experience, genetics, culture, teaching, family, lots of reasons. We do the same thing with our tastes for imitation love. As we grow up, we're exposed to certain kinds of imitation love. We acquire certain tastes for them. Around certain kinds of imitation love, we achieve certain levels of excitement. We feel certain degrees of safety. And somehow, some of us fall into little teeny niches where a particular thing consistently excites us and yet leaves us feeling safe. That's all a fetish is. Long-term consequences of having one, they're no more distracting from us feeling unconditionally loved than most other things. It just becomes kind of a specialized thing. And the solution is the same as it is for any other form of imitation love. Get loved. Once somebody has had enough real love in their life, then the attraction of the various forms of imitation love really does diminish. After you've had chocolate cake, dog food isn't nearly as attractive. Well, these questions have been outstanding. I appreciate your questions on dating, relationships. We have one more question. Let me answer that. The other day, a lady says, I lost it and got emotional. I left a message on my husband's voicemail accusing him of being cruel and giving me the silent treatment. I realized later that I'm responsible for my own emotions and wrote an email to apologize. Why do I feel so unstable and where did I go wrong? Oh, you just fell back into the old hole of feeling like a victim, which is understandable because is your husband victimizing you? Is he hurting you? Is he attacking you? Is he being unkind to you? Yes. But you forget at times that no matter what other people do to us, we have a choice about how we feel about it. Other people can always take $2 from us, but it's up to us to see to it that we have enough of the $20 million so that when people take $2, it just won't matter. The $20 million, this, underline this, tattoo it on your forehead. The $20 million is our responsibility. So if I'm empty and somebody takes $2 from me, I will react badly, and my being empty is my responsibility. The $2 is not. They are responsible for their behavior. What they did was wrong. There's no hiding that. The way your husband treats you is wrong. But you are responsible for seeing to it that you're filled up more with real love, so that when he treats you badly, it won't matter. Because people will always be treating us badly our entire lives. That will always be the case. And if we stay empty, every person who comes along can just pick at us and completely destroy our happiness. Do we really want to live like that? It's a terrible way to live. I've lived like that. Most people do. Or we can reach out to each other, feel more unconditionally loved, and then when people inevitably come along and take those $2, we will not feel devastated. That is the ultimate power in the universe, is that no matter what anybody else is doing around you, you have the ability to choose to be loving and happy. That's where you went wrong. You forgot that you have that power. You thought he had the power to hurt you, and that is not true. So, great questions about relationships, about real love in general, about parenting, about dating. My goodness, we really covered the gamut here tonight. And I look forward to seeing you next Tuesday. And we'll again talk about whatever issue you'd like to bring, and bring your friends with you. Remember that it's always about real love, and we always love you.